Howdy, boyos. Just a reminder, if you actually like the Anthony and Todd Show, why not subscribe? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't hurt you. Just subscribe. Just click the link down below if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're on Apple Podcasts, might as well give us a 5-star review. Why not? It helps the show. If you like listening to our dumb memes, our dumb criticisms of albums, and us being pretentious and goofy as fuck, why not? Just helps out. Just helps out. Just do it, please. Welcome to the Anthony and Todd Show. Every week we usually start with a musical intro.
We quit it for a while
Because it's getting too annoying, but I found a way to make it less annoying. So this week we're bringing it back. It's a little demo run. We're bringing it back. We're peeping this musical intro, and if it fails, if you suck, we're never doing this again, Trevor.
Okay.
So usually we have Trevor do a musical intro. Gets you hyped, brings good energy into the show, sets up our meme environment, our meme biodome here of the Anthony and Todd Show. So without any further ado, Trevor, go away with this musical intro.
So to get our meme environment, we're gonna meditate for a second.
Okay.
Close your eyes.
Okay.
Bring your face up like this. Betting Taylor Swift every night inside the Oculus Rift. Thank you.
I think we may never do this again. That was the worst one. I was expecting some like Oreo cereal ASMR level quality memes, but that was just like...
We were meditating.
What is that called? Deep throat singing?
Throat singing.
Throat singing.
Did you enjoy it?
No.
Thank you.
What if there's an artist? I want to see an artist cover Kendrick Lamar's "Damn" but throat sing it.
I think I'm gonna do it.
Okay, good.
Hey guys, welcome to the Anthony and Todd Show. We are a weekly podcast that critiques and memes music, much to you guys' disdain sometimes. I'm your host Trevor, aka the Bronze Kneecap, aka Bistro Breakfast in Bed Bar VIP Lounge on the Water, aka Tranquility Base Hotel and Knuckles. And I'm joined by my ever attentive co-host, my best friend, my pal, my amigo, Vincent.
AKA, I give this Gambino meme one more week before it dies. It's just gonna die. It has a shelf life. Its shelf life has already been executed to its fullest. AKA, the second season of Community. AKA, Big Jensen. I don't get that one.
I wrote that one.
What does it mean?
I just wanted to see if you'd say it.
Okay.
This is episode 39 of the Anthony and Todd Show, an episode we would like to call Father John Misty, more like Father John Pissy, because someone woke him up from his nap, aka Father Stretch My Johnson. This week we're going to be talking about Father John Misty's 2017 album Pure Comedy, 1 year later, and how it's aged for us and how we feel about it about a year later after we reviewed it, actually. And we definitely had some discrepancies. I think we're going to continue to have discrepancies.
Oh my God.
Fist fight.
I thought the beef would end, but it's continuing, and it's even more ferocious than it was last year.
Same. We also have our Dank Pick of the Week, segment we used to do back in the day.
And then we brought it back for a bit.
And then we quit it again. But also, I think that it just gives us a chance to talk about songs that we like that just like didn't come out this year, or songs that we really appreciate.
Just random shit.
Yeah, it's fun.
And then speaking of random shit, we're also going to be talking about the random artists you should know about. A weekly segment we're going to be doing from here and out until we run out of artists. But it's going to be just a random artist that we personally enjoy and we think you should enjoy. May be flying under your radar, and we want to make sure you enjoy their music as much as we do.
Sure.
Okay, you ready to get into this pure comedy? Boys. I think it's even. I think this this episode may be considered part of the divine comedy, part of the ever-changing downward spiral of humanity. Father John Misty is a folk artist who many view as pretentious or an asshole. The asshole part, I think, is pretty correct. I think he'll even say that he's an asshole. This is his Pure Comedy is his 2017 release, and it is way more verbose, way more slow, and way less... It's way more musically grand, but I will also say it's way more musically... basic.
It's 100% scaled back.
I think it's grand. Its grandness comes from the fact that it is minimal in a sense. If that makes same way Kanye's 808's minimal in a different aspect.
Yeah.
Not to say they're like the same genre or anything, but this comes right after 2015's I Love You Honey Bear and 2013's Fear Fun, two very different projects that kind of established Father John Misty as the force he was today. And this project completely took what was great about those and kind of dropped it on his head. I feel like this is just such an out there project compared to those two. It's not even like the same like ballpark. I feel like you can say musically it kind of is because they all kind of fall under this like indie folk genre, but this is way so much more ambitious of a project. It is an hour 14 minutes of these slow, rambly folk tracks that are basically talking about humanity and the vices that lead them, whether it be politics or religion or like sexuality or not sexuality, gender, and the differences between the two. I think it is such a hard to grasp concept, and it is huge. It's a very ambitious story that he's trying to tell here, and I think personally, I think this is a great album. Trevor thinks this is a terrible album. This was the first review we ever did. We did it last year on the first episode of the Anthony and Todd Show, and this was our first review. We didn't have really an experience in reviewing music up to that point. We knew how to critique music. We weren't as good as it. It's a constant cycle of self-improvement, essentially.
You always get better as you go on.
And I thought it'd be fun for us to come back because my opinion, at least a couple months ago, changed. I thought this album, at least the later parts, I enjoyed a bit more. And even recently, I think my opinion on this album changed because I like it more, even though I did now. I think this is a way more bigger album, at least lyrically, than I gave it credit for, or at least idea-wise, I gave it credit for. I think some of the later tracks I actually enjoyed more. But Trevor hated this album. He thought it was 2. I thought this was like a good album, but it needs some improvement. It was like an 8.6. My opinion's changed. I think Trevor, has your opinion changed?
Maybe a little bit.
I think it's like, well, I think your opinion has to change. Not that has to be positive, but I thought it would be weird if your opinion didn't change. No, like I'm not saying you had to love it.
I think it has a little bit, but like you can always, you always revisit a film that you love and you'll love it. Yeah. Or you can always revisit a film that you hate and it might just be so blatantly bad that you still hate it.
Yeah, I wasn't. This is kind of gonna be me like testing you in a sense. Not that like you had to love this album, but or had to like even like it more. I just wanted to make sure your opinion changed in some form, or at least you were getting better at the way you were explaining why you dislike something. It was more of like a test. I don't know. But pure comedy. It's an hour and 14 minutes long, and it is one of the slowest records on the earth. This thing moves at the pace of a snail sometimes. It actually starts out really hot with pure comedy, I'm sorry, I have a hair in my mouth. Total Entertainment Forever, Things That Would Have Been Helpful in the Revolution, Ballad of the Dying Man, but going... Even those tracks are like slow, but I think they're faster paced compared to some other tracks on the album. But like once you get in the Birdie, this thing just hits the pace of a snail. Not that I personally find that a bad thing, because some music is just slow. It is just meant to be slow. It is meant to be difficult to listen to or difficult to sit through. And even this music, when it's talking about just the problems with humanity, the problems, how humanity is almost destined to be in this downward spiral that's constantly going down and down. And almost the fear of the end of the world in a sense. I think it's the slowness actually provides kind of a calming sword to this. I think Father John Misty kind of lives up to his name, and that's not something I think I said in the last review, is that his name is Father John Misty. He comes out with you almost on a pedestal in a sense. Mm-hmm. And that's the type of thing I would expect from someone named Father John Misty, is them talking down to me in a sense, them telling me about the world. And I think I admitted that some of this album was pretentious last year. Listening to it again, I don't think anything he says on this is that pretentious. Personally. I think he critiques politics and religion and humanity that much, but I think it is 100% authentic to what he says. It's 100% authentic to his character, and none of it really surprises me that much. Like, an example I want to give of a surprising, pretentious moment is on Carsey Everest's Twin Fantasy Face to Face. I thought Will Toledo's moment on Nervous Young and Humans, the album version, was actually very pretentious because it just came out of blue, and it didn't seem like Will Toledo's natural character. Mm-hmm. It just seemed like he was rambling for the sake of rambling, or he was rambling to actually, like, give a persona of something he wasn't, whereas Father John Misty on this is not really saying anything that like I don't know, like that even like pretentious. Like I don't think he talks about subjects of religion and stuff like that in humanity, but it doesn't seem like anything like batshit crazy, or that he's trying to make himself look good from it, or that it's like all just a persona to make himself look better. I think he's just being real honest about his thoughts that he is. I don't think it's like drunk kid at a party preaching philosophy. I think it's just more of like him trying to figure out the world around him and him trying to share his vision of the world around him with the people that listen to his music. I'm just curious what you have to think about him.
You know, okay, so you mentioned like his name, Father John Misty, and how he's like talking down to his listeners, but in all honesty, like I don't like being talked down to, even by like an artist. Like I don't appreciate that. I didn't appreciate it on Crusty Headrest with Will Toledo. I don't appreciate it now, and didn't appreciate it then when we first reviewed this album. Also, I really enjoyed, it's kind of some like backlog things. I really enjoyed I Love You Honey Bear, and I was just really disappointed, I guess, that the shift made from that album to this one is such a less personal one. I enjoy when like artists get personal with you, or I enjoy like when they share their own stories, but I feel like this is very much so like big picture stuff. And I mean, not that I can't enjoy like big picture stuff, but I think that like Father John Misty just doesn't have like a whole lot of stuff to say, where he's like, it's almost like he's sitting like in a chair and he's like, all right, I gotta write some metaphors, and he just sits back and he says, humanity is like a bird on the wind flying into a jet engine. All right, humanity is like a bird on the wind. This is just total entertainment forever. Floating into a jet engine. All right, cool. Humanity is...
I think, like, even bringing up Total Entertainment Forever, I don't get that, because Total Entertainment Forever is...
No, and I'll definitely say, pick a different example. I love Total Entertainment Forever. I love Ballad of the Dying Man. I like Smoochie
I think the only moment you can probably really say that on, or the best example, is The Memo. Because The Memo is just him, like...
I just feel like it's almost like on every track. Like, you look at, like, pure comedy. You look at, the chorus of this. Their illusions they have no choice but to believe. The horizons just forever recede. Like, oh, that's so ironic, you know. Their idea of being free is a prison of beliefs. Ha 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 ha. You know, like, I don't know. There's just like too many too many empty metaphors. I think there's just too many empty metaphors and too much like empty symbolism on this album for it to mean something to me. If you compare humanity to one thing for an entire track, then I'll be like, okay, that makes sense. It's like developing an essay. That, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like developing an essay in your English class or whatever back in sophomore year when you had to like defend your position or whatever. If you find symbolism in a book, then you can't just have one example of the symbolism and write the whole thing about that. You have to have like multiple instances. I wrote an essay about the usage of water in A Tale of Two Cities, and there's like 20 different examples of that in the book, and so I wrote my whole essay about that. But like, you can't just write an essay and be like, here's some symbolism, here's some symbolism, here's some symbolism, and they all mean completely different things, because then you don't have a cohesive essay. And I feel like that's at least my metaphor of what this album is similar to. Is like just somebody writing an essay, but like having almost like nowhere to go. They just come up with like all these empty comparisons or empty symbolism, and then write their ideas kind of around that. It just covers so much ground in the course of like an hour 10 or whatever that it just doesn't mean anything to me at the end.
I think the best example of what you're trying to go for is Leaving LA, but even recently I thought that Leaving LA is actually kind of a beautiful moment, because it goes through so much shit in like 13 minutes. The track is fucking ridiculous length. It's just like, It just feels like it's going on and on, but when you really look at the track and the lyrics and what he's trying to say, you feel like you're actually going on this long journey. How he starts off in LA looking, I think he's I forget, he's in some type of park, I think, and he's like just the giant San Andreas faults collapsing, and he's watching all the dogs separate themselves from their owner, going into his critique of himself musically, his first memory of music being in the J.C. Penney's and choking on candy, which leads to the metaphor, or leads to the overall statement of like comedy, how it really doesn't stop for anyone. Humanity just keeps on moving forward. It's all kind of ironic. The pain and suffering never really stops. And then that goes to like the end where you feel like you've been on this giant ass journey. And it's very beautiful sounding. That's how I personally interpret it. I think one of the things I personally got from this listen more is that Father John Misty is a really solid storyteller. Moments like Total Entertainment Forever, talking about a future in which we're all online digitally, we're all in like the Oculus Rift of sorts, being in this virtual world, and how that affects humanity as a whole. Things would happen to be helpful to know about before the revolution. After the revolution, in this dystopian society, post-dystopian society, the ongoings of everything, being this like apocalyptic world of sorts. Ballad of the Dying Man, a man who thinks his mind is so great and he fears about losing it, fear of dying, not because of death, but because of he doesn't want his mind to go to waste. Almost the pretentiousness of himself in a sorts. Leaving LA, I already mentioned too. A track that actually grew on me, So I'm Going Old on Magic Mountain, a track that kind of reflects Father John Misty. It's kind of like childish, asshole-like behavior, how he really doesn't want to grow up as a human being. He just kind of wants to stay on Magic Mountain forever and not advance. It gives me kind of like a Lotus Eater vibe, if you know that. Is that Greek myth?
Yeah.
Greek or... Yeah. He just wants to be on this like mountain forever, doing whatever the fuck he can. And then I think in 20 years or so, kind of like the apocalyptic nature of the world and how humanity is eventually going to die out. But like, and even the Memo, I think Memo's made a bunch of different stories, but I think in all honesty, it's like one of the weaker tracks on here still. I think it goes on for way too long, and it has a perfect ending in the track where it kind of builds into this distortion. I still love that, but then it goes into another version. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, that just pisses me off. That's like the biggest thing that pisses me off on this. Smoochie's even a good story, talking about him and his wife and their relationship.
See, I like Smoochie because it reminds me of something off of I Love You, Honey Bear.
It's like a cut from I Love You, Honey Bear, but it doesn't really fit into any other themes of bigger humanity. And that's why I like it the least, is because narratively it kind of takes this one like very personal note that doesn't really have much to say about humanity. Like, I think So I'm Growing Old, Magic Mountain is personal to Father John Misty, but also I think has a large statement about humanity, whereas Smoochie is like very personal to him and his wife, and it just doesn't really have anything that spreads outside to it. But I think it's lyrically or musically, production wise, it is one of the shorter tracks. And his performance is solid on it, but just like the ideas that are presented don't really do anything for me. And I think Birdie is another great example of storytelling, because he's talking to this bird and telling how one day when we figure out our conscience, you're gonna envy us. You're not as free as you think you are. I thought it was really cool. I think there's a lot of ideas being presented here about there is a lot of ideas being presented about humanity here, and I think I enjoy him even more now. Looking at everything in this grander scale, I think there's only one moment that I think narratively he screws up on this. I think everything is according to the plan. I think it just needs a stronger little bit ending, because I think in 20 years or so, it talks about the end of humanity, but I just don't think it hits us home. Like, pure comedy is a great punch. It's a great intro. It's a great thesis statement of what he got. But like in 20 years or so, it's the end. So it makes sense in that aspect, but it just doesn't hit me as hard as pure comedy. I think I needed a musical statement that hit me just as hard. But yeah, I enjoy this album even more. I think Father John Misty's a natural storyteller, and I think he doesn't really say anything that pretentious. I think if anything, it's down to it. I think it's just his outworld persona, which he's made reference to even recently on the track Mr. Tillman, that he's willing to accept that he's an asshole, that comes to more in play about people's opinion on them than this. And I'm not saying that's what you did, but like, I don't see this thing as pretentious. I don't see anything that he has to say on here to be that like crazy or diluted. I think some people may view his critique of religion to be bad, but other than that, like, I don't think he's saying, even then, his critique of religion isn't about people believing. I think it's about the people who are controlling the belief, not the rulers, but the leaders of religion. I think this is I think the more I delve into this, the more I just have to say. I think it's just, I can talk about this all day. I can keep on rambling how I like this, or how Father John Misty, like individual points, like two wild different perspectives, is just, it's amazing because it constantly talks. It's not even focusing on the right that's bad. I think it's also the extreme right that's bad, but the extreme left, how you could be so hardcore or so held up in your beliefs that you could forget that what you're fighting for, or that you're hurting. What you're fighting for is actually hurting other people instead of helping them, and that sometimes you just need to like suck it in and not like that. Being able to negotiate, not get everything you want, but like most of you want, but able to work with other people so you can move humanity forward and not just move yourself or your own personal beliefs or your own MO, whether you're right or whether you're left on the spectrum. I think there's a lot to learn from this. The reason the memo is like one of my least favorite tracks on this is because I think it talks about art, which is okay, but I don't think it really stands out for that much. It talks about sports in the end, that's after the weird like auto-tuned focus, and that's like, okay, sports is not, it's a big picture, but it's like random that you're shoving this, and like I rather, and then it also talks about like boy bands, so like a different type of art. So all these are essentially kind of in the same vein of people glorifying, whether it be art or like music, sports, the glorification, everything. But I just think it's just like, I'd rather him focus on one thing. Like we get just him talking about music. I think that would probably be the best option, but like, or him talking about art, or him talking about people glorifying things, because I think this is just, at 5 minutes, it's just like too long, and it goes down too many routes for me to pay attention to what he's really doing. I don't think lyrically it's that bad, but I think it could have been condensed into something that was way more stronger and way more hard-hitting. That's, I think I could keep on rambling about this for days and days, but there's a lot of strong storytelling, a lot of strong, I don't know, I just like Father John Misty lives up to his name on this album of being a father, being of almost a preacher talking down to you, but not, he's talking down to you, but I don't think he's like even being mad out of sense. I don't think I'm being like screamed at or anything, or being told I'm stupid.
No, I just think it's condescending. I 100% think it's like condescending, or like he's talking about humanity, but it's almost like, oh yeah, like you guys all suck, but I'm excluded from that because like I'm a father, I'm a deity, which like plays into some of like the commentary about religion and religious leaders he has on here, but also like the name wasn't set up to do something like that. You know, Father John Misty didn't have his name, made 2 albums under that name just so he could build up to making this album where he could talk down to everybody, you know? I'm just like, I just think that there's like so much on this, sorry, I was reading a comment.
Yeah, just like...
there's just so much on this album that I find to be, like you said, like, you said it wasn't pretentious, but there's so much that I do find to be, like, pretentious. It's like The Memo, for example, which I know you said is, like, one of the weaker tracks. It's talking about, like, the glorification of music, the glorification of art or sports or whatever. So I'm like, what's the point? You know, what's the point of making any of this stuff? Like, this whole album just screams to me, like, nothing is nothing. Like, everything is meaningless. Living is meaningless. Humanity is meaningless. Resistance is meaningless because everything's just going to keep going anyway. Comedy waits for no man. Comedy waits for no one. It's just going to keep moving forward. But then, like, what's the point of doing anything? Why did Father John Misty make this album if nothing means anything?
I think it's, in the best of regards, I think it's, like, his critique of art and his critique of things is even, like, worthless stuff can be meaningless. Or, like, how he talked about the boy bands or just getting this random ensemble. Dude, they have no potential meaning. Like, nothing is meaningful in the grander scheme of things. It's a very hard, like, we could talk about this for days because it's just like,
I just think that like his him as a person, his persona as Father John Misty, this album, and the fact that he's like making music, just nothing is lining up to me. Nothing is lining up for this whole album to make any sense. You know what I'm saying? He makes music, but music is meaningless. He's a human, but humanity is meaningless. He's like it's like a fake paradox. And musically, you said this album is very like grandiose, but it's also like super basic. There's another paradox. It just feels like a faux utopia almost created on this album where everybody is like singing its praises, but the praises that people are singing are meaningless. The reviews given to this album are meaningless. What's it matter? Like, what's it matter of anybody's opinion? Okay. Like, no. The music aspect of it here, where everything is so basic. It's one. one guy playing his guitar or whatever. He's singing like very simple melodic lines, never really changes his voice, never changes his tone, his dynamics, like nothing is changing. It's just very like one note here. That's all meaningless, of course. But like it creates this like I said, like just faux utopia of like people saying how grandiose this was just because you're talking about like a bigger topic than just yourself, or just because you're talking about like such a grand scheme of things kind of thing like humanity, and people automatically are like, whoa, like humanity is bigger than an elephant, so it must be grand. Like this album must be great. But like it's not always so. It's like it reminds me of Hobson almost, where like Hobson talks about like some like dumb humanity stuff, or like dumb things about no,
like give me
dumb things about like humanity.
There's like a better, I think there's like better artists they can compare him to, like that. Like,
no, I say that because I don't like Hobson.
Hobson sucks.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
No, but like I don't even think Father John Misty. I think what the points you're getting to are he's making too big of accusations that like what is humanity, what is life, but like. Those are questions that are not really answered. But
he doesn't have anything to back it up.
Here's the thing, like the storytelling, even on that aspect, viewing it from your point, I think even the storytelling, you have to admire that. I think you got to admire even like moments like Birdie, or even the beginning about leaving your LA, or his discussion of like being in the Kohl's or at JCPenney and like choking on candy. But
no, I think that his storytelling is decent. Like Total Entertainment Forever, like I said, one of my favorite tracks. I've listened to that track like more times than I like to admit. For somebody that doesn't like this album, and I wish it would have made my like year-end list last year, because it's really grown on me. But I like it because it's musically different. It's a different track, and it talks about like one specific thing. It talks about like technology and how like when is technology too far? We get some like Jurassic Park stuff going on here.
Yeah.
And then Ballad of the Dying Man. I really appreciate his storytelling. That's my other favorite track on here, where it's all about like this one guy, and it goes through his like final moments.
Yeah.
And it truly is like a ballad of this guy. And that's why like I enjoy those two tracks, because I think they're just different. But then we've got like other things like so like Two Wildly Different Perspectives I think falls under that same category. It's talking about like how you can get so caught up in your beliefs that you like don't realize what you're fighting for. Yeah, like we talked about. And I think that is taking one specific thing and it's doing it well. Musically, I don't like it because I think it's very like one note, basic, whatever. But I think storytelling wise or like point making wise, it makes sense. But a track like Pure Comedy, a track like Leaving LA, a track like In 20 Years or So, or The Memo, just like they're so full of like doom and gloom and pointlessness that it was pointless to make doom and gloom. That it was like pointless to make the track. You know what I'm saying? He's like living in his own like Hippocratic world.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, but like I don't.
You don't have to. I mean, you don't have to.
Like
agree.
I'm not.
We've been disagreeing about this for a year now.
We come from two wildly different perspectives.
We come from other world.
I want to do. We gotta do it. I don't want to be right.
Do it because I don't like this album. Hootie and the Blowfish wrote this album.
You don't like you weren't gonna Hootie with a Blowfish with me?
All right, fine.
It's too late now.
Call me your fool.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it.
Come on.
You ruined your chance.
2, 1. I want to be with you.
I had to like separate myself from Mike and I want to scream it because I think I screamed it earlier. But,
amazing.
But yeah. I honestly like this. We come from two wildly different perspectives. As a pun, or a joke. I don't know. But like. I like this album for its storytelling, its opinions. I think Father John Misty is actually being himself on this album. He's persona. And I like hearing music where I can easily tell the persona and I can feel like authentic. Like we were talking about Janelle Monáe, different type of authentic. Mm-hmm. Like not like Father John Misty is almost.
And she still is playing in a persona too.
Yeah, where it's like Father John Misty is like the dark side of that authentic persona, whereas Janelle Monáe is like the light side, like. The heaven to this like kind of hell,
I guess.
Yeah, but like Father John Misty, I feel like is authentic even in his vices, and I feel like he presented his vices on this project against moments like So I'm Growing Old and Magic Mountain, and even like Smoochie where he's talking about his compressive episodes and how his wife like comes to his aid.
I just think that he's like presented his personal vices better on past projects than he has here. This is more like big picture stuff.
This is big picture stuff.
It just like doesn't feel like he has any like basis or ground to stand on for like what he's talking about. And that's just like what I think, you know? Mm-hmm. That's just what I get out of the album.
In my view, nothing's gonna carry away. I don't know why I had that song somewhere.
I don't know if I ever, like, will enjoy this album. I understand why it's popular. I understand why people like it, but I see right through you, Father John Misty.
I don't even think there's anything to sing through, because I think this is just, like, he's just presenting himself on this. I don't think he's doing it for any, like, opinion, because he's already viewed as an asshole, so, like, I don't think he has anything to lose at this point, or just being himself. That's just my take on it, but in honesty, if I had to give this, like, a score today, probably a 9.5. It's grown on me immensely just for the amounts of, like, storytelling I appreciate now more, and how I appreciate song growing on Magic Mountain 20 years or so. I think those were just, like, they just hit me the wrong way last year when I reviewed this. Least favorite moment, Smoochie probably, and the memo. Smoochie's probably the worst message-wise, because it really doesn't have anything to do with anything. Or it doesn't have
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a bad track.
No,
I don't think there really is any bad tracks on this anymore. I think everything is just kind of the same, production-wise, vocally. Yeah, 9.5. If I had to put on my year-end list, it would... Or the ranking of my year-end list probably stay the same. I think I'd probably keep it, like, the 7, because, like, I like my, like, top 5. Whatever, I thought that was pretty good. Top 5, top 6.
Sure.
Yeah.
Last year I gave this a 2. What an infamous rating. I'm the villain now. If I had to re-rate it and kind of go off of that again, my top... Whatever list, it didn't even make my top list at the end of the year, just because I didn't like it. But if I have, like, I think I'd probably give it like a 3 now.
A 3?
It's just, I mean, I understand it better, I think, but it doesn't make me like it anymore.
Okay. I think it's just, again, it's just like...
Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, we're just not gonna...
I listened to it again, and I thought about what you had said, and I thought about, like, why you liked it, and yeah, admittedly, like, I did find some more things that I liked about it, but I don't think it'll ever be good album material for me. Mm-hmm. I think it'll always just kind of stay in that range. And it's not like, it's not bad, like, it's not objectively bad, like Migos or Man in the Woods, you know? It's never like that. It's just a matter of my personal taste. And for me, I don't think it'll ever, like, rise above that. Okay. If I did have a regret, though, it would be that, like, Total Entertainment Forever was not on my year-end list, because I did like that.
I think you had... No, you have Ballad of Dying Man.
Yeah, I think I would replace it with Total Entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah, my opinion's changed. Trevor's opinion's changed. I think we had a debate. I just want to let you know I love you as a friend.
Thank you.
This opinion of this album. We come from two wildly different perspectives. I'm going to keep on making that joke until it stops being funny to me. But I think it's
never funny to begin.
It's funny to me.
To meme.
Me ghosts. That wasn't funny, but it was funny to me. We come from two... We have two vastly different opinions on this project, and I wasn't expecting you to even like this or improve. I wasn't actually expecting you to like it in the end. I was just hoping your opinion changed, and your opinion changed because people change. I just wanted you to review this album to be different. That's all I really wanted, and it was. So I don't have anything to complain about.
Cool.
But yeah, I would honestly suggest this album is very polarizing to a lot of people. Some people love it. Some people think it's like the scum of the earth.
It kind of got universal acclaim when it came out. I don't know anybody that doesn't like it.
No, I'm not talking about like critics, because I think critics love this album, but I think fans, people who listen to it, people on the internet.
People that listen to Father John Misty, I'm sure, found something completely different here, and they were just like, either, hey, I can adapt to this, or this just sucks. And for me, it was, this just sucks. Yeah. Because I did like I Love You Honey Bear so much.
But like I Love You Honey Bear is good, but like this is like for me some next level shit. And I think what we're gonna get for I think his next album is called
God's Favorite Customer.
Yeah, that's gonna be different. I think that's gonna be in more like Fear Fun territory, or like I Love You Honey Bear territory. I think more Fear Fun. From what I get it, but like there's some moments I like on it so far. Like I like Mr. Tillman, but some other moments of like I think they're okay to like good. I'm not 100% sold on them yet. I think once the album comes out, I'll have like a defect opinion. But yeah, I'm excited. I'll check this album out for sure, because you're either gonna love it or you hate it. But it's worth the experience, I think. Even like I think
it solidifies what you like and what you don't, and it's I think it's very telling of like your music taste.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a gauntlet that I feel like you should put yourself through, because going forward from there, I found myself comparing a lot of things to Father John Misty, and I don't think his personality or like the way he delivers messages. He's got like a certain style about him, and he always has, and I enjoy that style. Did I enjoy it here in the messages he talked about? No. But listening to this, I think, gave me a better, like, solid opinion on what to compare other things to as well. Yeah. So, I think it's very telling about, like, the kind of music that you'll enjoy and what it says about you. Okay. Going forward, we actually have a fan question from our boy, Alex Marco. He writes, Dear Anthony and Todd, is there any album you guys liked on first listen but ended up hating in the long run?
Yeah, there's a lot. I had to think about this for a bit because at first nothing was really coming to mind, but then I went through like my Google Play Music library
here for me,
and then like I just kind of like thought of stuff. First obvious one is none of these are really like first listen and second listen I ended up hating it. Like a lot of these are just like first listen. And then I kind of, like, grew up as an individual over, like, a couple years. And then I started, like, not liking it. First one, Tyler, the Creator's Goblin.
I remember what you loved.
I loved this album in high school. I think everyone in high school, like, any edgy white boy liked this album in high school.
I was not edgy.
Yeah, you weren't.
Vincent was an edgy boy.
But this album was Tyler, the Creator's first studio album. It came off of his mixtape mixtape Bastard. And re-listening to Bastard now, it had so much better production and so much better, I don't know, I think Tyler's better use of kind of his like what is it, like edgy persona, because Tyler at this point in career was just an edgelord. He was just trying to be his most offensive or most like polarizing, his most like just like, I think just like he tried to like be the biggest news story he can be, if that makes sense. Try to just get so much news coverage on him by being so offensive or so shocking. And Goblin, it doesn't have like the same flows. I think it has some better hooks than Bastard for sure. Like moments like She with Frank Ocean, and like Yonkers is obviously one of Tyler Creator's best tracks still, even to this day, even though it's edgy beyond belief. Mm-hmm. But a lot of production on this album is just terrible. It's just bad. It's really boring, really bland. There's not much to it. It shows that Tyler was like he was still adolescent in his music career, and comparing this album with Flower Boy is like fucking ridiculous. Something that started here ended up here. But it's just too dark, it's too gloomy, it's too boring, it's too edgy for its own good. Definite moments I think are great though. She, Frank Ocean, and Yonkers I think is great. But other than that, like I think this is just like, it's just too edgy, too dark, too boring, and I think it needed way more time. And I don't understand how the Odd Future hype train started with this, because this was just not a good release, and we really didn't get a solid Tyler release until Woof. So after that, album I listened to last year and first listen I actually thought was pretty good. Courtney Barnett's and Kurt Vile's, a lot of Sea Lice. I just thought it was a really fun folk listening on first, but then listening it to a second time, I realized there was just not that much there. It was just the same kind of like track, same on style. Moments like Over Everything and like Continental Preference are like great.
This makes me very happy. I can't explain.
But like it's not. I don't think this album's that terrible.
No, I don't think it's terrible. But sometimes I think it just kind of falls into like same old. It's just kind of basic for its own good. Yeah. Another one after that, Joji and Tons. First listen, I actually we reviewed this before, but first listen, I actually quite enjoyed Joji. I wasn't really listening to it critically. I was just more had it in the background. I was like, okay, but with this second listen, I realized, he's not really having that much depth to his like vocals. The production, it's minimal, but it could be better. And also the drums on like World Star are like terrible. And it just like, his performance throughout just bugged me so much on listens after that it just like kept on like just irritating me that I just found it to be annoying. Another one after that, anything 21 Pilots, so like Blurry Face, Vessel. I love these albums in high school. I fucking love these albums. In defense of Vessel, I seriously just don't think it's like a horrible album.
It's not terrible,
but there are just like,
I think it's just like my main problem isn't with the production, because I think the production's actually fine for a pop record, but I think it's just comes down to like the just edginess of 21 Pilots, or how they are an emo act, how they are part of like the Fuel by Ramen label, how they fit that aesthetic of just being overly dramatic and just overly edgy, and they don't really have any good like storytelling that backs that up, as an act like Remo Drive would, or like Modern Baseball.
No, I mean, I think that they are like really edgy, but I still think that like Vessel is an interesting musical album. Like, I think it's interesting musically. Lyrically, it doesn't mean anything. But to me,
Vessel is just. I think I was in my phase where I was just like, I was depressed, little queer high schooler, and I didn't have any outlet. And 21 Pilots was just like, it was just like, you know, 20 Fun Pilots was just like, it just like, it hit me with the feels, I guess, and that's why I related it to so much. But like the feels that it presents, or the ideas that it presents, are just so basic. After that, Domo Genesis with Genesis. Domo Genesis, I think it's his debut album, his debut studio album at least. This was like right before I had like a creative swing with hip hop, or like I heavily critiqued hip hop more. This is before like I really got into more independent acts like Doom and stuff like that. Like, I was aware of the presence, but I wasn't as intrigued.
It took me.
But I think this album, it's not terrible, but it needs a lot of work. I think John Genesis is just a boring MC, but I thought the backing and the features that on this were fine. Like, I liked Anderson .Paak's performance. I liked Tyler Creator's performance on this album. I liked a lot of the production that backed it, because it was like, it was grand. It was basic, but I thought it was also very like well produced, well backed. And I think Domo Genesis just didn't fit over it as well as he believes. Like, moments like All Night, I really like the spacey kind of environment it produces, with the piano ballad, with a little piano ballad behind it. I think it's great, production wise, but like Damo's performance of it, it's just like, it's not great. It could be improved. The next one's yours.
So this is kind of like a high school pick as well. A lot of these are like high school picks, so like stuff that I used to like in high school and don't anymore. The XX's debut album, absolutely XX. I used to like really enjoy this.
It's just too spacey.
Now it's just like way too minimalistic. It doesn't mean anything.
It's too spacey.
There are some like good songs on here. I think, like, favorite being
the intro, right?
Intro's
great.
Basic Space I really enjoy, but after that, like, everything else, I think it's just too minimalistic and edgy in a sense. It's like anti-edgy to be edgy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
What is it? Hipster.
Yeah.
Hipster edgy.
Yeah, it's like very hipster edgy.
Doesn't think it's edgy, but it's being edgy to be edgy. Weirdly enough. Being not edgy to be edgy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah. I think they're like,
that's better.
Here's what edgy people are making, and this is us. Yes. Vincent is a product of edginess. Yeah. And then they're like, let's make something that means something. And then they like make this album and they're like, we worked forever on this album and we think that it's absolutely amazing. No offense to you, Sam. I don't know how New Zealanders sound. These guys are English. And they're like, we worked for years to make this album really, really just something great that we can all really say that we put our hearts and souls into. And then like you get there and it's like, somebody slamming the door, and then like 6 seconds of silence, and then maybe like the faintest synth recorded from the humming noise that your refrigerator makes, and then like 12 seconds of silence, and then like Bjork vocals. The next I would have to say, Violent Femmes' debut album.
Really?
In all honesty, yeah.
This is like, I still like this album. My biggest problem with this album is I think the mixing just sucks on it. I think it's way too quiet for its own good.
I just,
but like, I think the teenage angst that comes with it, and the just aggression that the album has, the pop aggression, I think is great. I think this is like a prelude to acts like Car Seat Headrest. I think it still holds up. I think it's a very underrated. Any of their work after their debut album, like that I will totally agree with. But like 100%. This album, their debut album, Violent Femmes, is great. I think it just doesn't get enough credit. I think it's a severely underrated album.
I think it's overrated, in all honesty. Like, based on like what people have said about it. Like, Blister in the Sun, I can get behind that. Like, just like anybody else can, I'm sure. But after that, like, I think it just kind of loses its sheen for me. And then Lil Dicky's Professional Rapper.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I actually like enjoyed this song when it comes enjoyed this album when it first came out. I was like, this is because I thought it was like creatively made. I didn't realize that there were like more white people in rap than there actually are. I didn't realize that like people were doing this like stuff all the time. This guy just happened to get big because I thought it was cool. I was like, all right, guy's working in a business firm, decides to like quit all of his dreams and make an album, like, you know, start rapping. And I was like, that's awesome. And I still think like that's kind of an inspirational story. That's part of the reason I quit doing a business degree and went on to do music is because I saw this guy doing like what he wanted to do, and I was like, I could do that. And so I went on. So thank you, Lil Dicky, but this album's not super good.
It sucks.
I think that they're like...
Okay, Professional Rapper, the track, it's great because his talking Snoop Dogg, it's so funny.
It's interesting. I think Save That Money is also funny.
Save That Money is actually really funny, but like I think this Lil Dicky should have just been a YouTube rapper. Because I think that would have been his... Like, producing albums, it sucks. There's just so much bloat and just boring stuff. Moments that I thought were funny originally, like Pillow Talk, which I think was just a giant meme. It's just essentially a giant meme. Just got so, like, over... Like, almost... Just because they got famous, because it wasn't in this little Tory and it was on a larger stage, I think it hurt it even more because there was a bunch of white kids that knew this. Instead of just about a bunch of, like, white internet nerds knowing about this, it was a bunch of, like, white kids... And they're like friends who listen to country music who also knew all the lyrics. Like
I think he just blew up too fast, and everybody was like, "This is so relatable." I mean, me included, because there definitely are like relatable parts of the album. I'm not trying to go like spend all my money, you know. And I like some of the times, like him talking about going out or him talking about like meeting new people or whatever. I think that those kind of things are relatable in a sense.
Yeah.
But like at some point, it just becomes like. Not everybody can find it, like, super relatable, or else it loses something. It just loses that, like, personality to you. It blew up so fast that, like, the rest of his albums just kind of turned into a shit show.
And his one EP, he hasn't released. The rest of his tracks.
Tracks and things.
The Brain EP was awful, and this new track with Chris Brown is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, there's moments on it that I enjoy. Save That Money, and I think Professional Rapper are good. But the rest of it I thought was just a shit show that was really underproduced, really boring, and it would have been... As a YouTube rap star, I thought it would have been fine. If he just released these tracks on their own, did not release an album... And there were just these little internet videos. I thought that would have been fine. But, like, since this is this bigger album, it sucks. And, like, I think his come up, the more I hear about what it is, I don't think he has any respect for hip-hop as a medium, really. And the fact that he's staring the stage with bunch of these people who actually respect hip-hop as a medium just kind of pisses me off. The fact that he's headlined, that he's so high up ranked on a lot of these festivals and stuff like that.
No, I mean, that kind of thing's crazy to me, because I don't think that he has, like, a lot of respect. And then, finally, like, just an overall thing, Red Hot Chili Peppers, I used to really enjoy when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think we all did. Because
just don't anymore. Same with, like, Green Day. I was like, it's not 80s rock, and it's not, like, it's there in front of me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, and... I'll admit, like, they were played for a reason.
Okay.
Because I think that some of their stuff is catchy, but, like, it just didn't age well.
Red Hot Chili Peppers, Green Day, All American Rejects, all of those were shitty bands of my childhood.
And don't you dare mention Blink-182. Because I still like Blink-182.
Okay, we're just going to end that segment there.
Catchy for a reason.
We're just going to end that segment there. Now time to get to a segment that we had at one point in time. We brought it back from the dead. The Dank Pick of the Week. Dank Pick of the Week is a weekly segment where we bring up a random track that we've been listening to recently, or we just enjoyed, or we don't feel like people talk about enough, and we want to talk about it in our podcast, give it a medium to shine. And, yeah. Trevor, I let you pick this one this week. So go away.
All right, my pick this week was Bats by The Uncluded. The Uncluded is an indie folk rap, anti-folk, whatever, duo, consisting of course, you've got your underground legend, Aesop Rock, highest vocabulary in the rap game.
The dictionary.
About 90 feet tall white dude who made most recent track Hot Dogs last year, which is... Really
fantastic.
Really good.
And before that, the amazing Possible Kid, which is one of the best, I would say, but one of the best underground records of all time, just because of all the vocabulary and just
his
the
track record is outstanding.
Yeah,
and it's just getting better and better.
Yeah.
Props to also John Wayne doing the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the duo consists of A$AP Rock and anti-folk artist Kimya Dawson, and they made an album in 2013 called Hokey Fright, of course released on the ever-popular Rhymesayers Entertainment, home of Dem Atlas and Brother Ali.
Atmosphere, it's their label,
Evidence, and people like that. Good times.
Proof Prof, Priff Prof.
Priff Prof.
Priff Prof. How do we pronounce it? How do we pronounce it? Maybe we should type it in the comments so we actually know how to pronounce it. But don't put the IPA, just
write it the same way he does, because when you write it, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
But not when he does.
Yeah. Don't tell us actually how to pronounce it. Just write the word down. That's good.
But anyway, this song Bats, I think, is their breakout best song off of the Hokey Fright. Hokey Fright, I think, is an excellent album, but Bats it really sticks out to me. It's about 6 verses long, and it's all about the death of the friend of A$AP Rock and kind of acquaintance of Kimya Dawson, named Michael Larson, aka Idea, fellow rapper. He died in October of 2010, and they went and visited his mom in Minnesota and visited all his friends and just kind of coped with the loss. But I think that the biggest takeaway that they had from this grieving process was when they went to a bridge, I think probably the St. Paul Bridge, I think.
Yeah.
And this place is famous for having bats fly out of it, just come and fly from under the bridge at night, and they go see all the bridge, or they go see all the bats at the bridge, and they think that there's going to be 20 quadrillion of them, and then it just ended up being 6, and it was way less than they estimated, but it still helped with their grieving process of just being able to see these bats fly away and just kind of let go of their grief and know that he's in a better place. This album, I think, is this track, I think, is just a great mix of amazing storytelling and metaphors and just great wordplay by A$AP Rock, mixed with kind of this very salt of the earth tone of Kimya Dawson.
Yeah.
Also, the beat is hard hitting as all get out, and it should not go this hard, but it does.
No, and on the hook with the synth, a very very similar synth that A$AP Rock has always used. Fits. I don't know how it fits over this very folky beat with the hard hitting drums.
It reminds me of them stomping on the bridge to get the bats to come out, or clapping their hands or whatever. Yeah. It's very percussion heavy, very actually very Meg White.
Yeah.
Reminds me of just very primitive drum beat. But it goes from that personal story of meeting up with his mom and all of his friends and grieving together as a family, in a sense, a makeshift family at the funeral, whatever, to going to mortality more in depth.
Yeah.
And what grieving means, what death means to them, and how they're going to kind of go, you know what I'm saying? How they are going to die and how they're going to be remembered. And there's lines like Kimya Dawson's I don't want people crying at my funeral. I want it to be a giant party. I want people to wear bright colors and celebrate my life, versus just being sad.
Yeah. And
they talk about summoning up the bats so they can live with their grief. The bats help kind of carry away that feeling of heaviness that they have after somebody dies. It's a beautiful track, but it's also a really hard-hitting track, and I think there's something for everybody here. If you're sentimental, there's stuff there for you. If you're in it just for the wordplay and hearing A$AP Rock do his thing, then there's a lot here for you. And even if you like folk music, or just weird combinations of hip-hop and other mediums and other genres, then this is definitely way up your alley. I love this track.
Yeah, A$AP Rock with his dictionary flow, the fact that he's able to bring out so many words, and Kimya Dawson, how she's able to combine her very simple folk voice with these rhymes, I think is great. This should be 2 genres should never mix together, but if they fit perfectly somehow in this weird sound. So I don't understand it. I definitely check out this track. If you're watching on YouTube, the link to the song will be in the description, so I would definitely recommend check it out. Okay, time for the final segment of the show. Random artists you should know about. I picked the artist this week. This week we were talking about Jack Stauber. We talked about his record High Low a couple weeks ago on the show, and I still love it. I think it's fantastic. I think his persona...
It's gotten me a lot more since then.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I've since then actually really listened to his previous album, his 2017 album, Pop Feud 2. And a lot of the ridiculous YouTube videos as he has, the little jingles and stuff like that. I think they're all great. I think he is a fantastic artist that knows his medium really well, knows his own persona that well, and knows how to mix the two. He knows how to mix these lo-fi aesthetics, this lo-fi pop sound with just weird lyrics and just weird vocal performances that are uberly catchy. I think he's fantastic, and I think he's really killing the pop game right now. I wish he was more popular than he is, because I think he puts in so much work, he puts so much effort. The amount of videos he's releasing constantly with all these little jingles and stuff, and the amount of them that get stuck in my head. Some notable ones. Two Time is fantastic. It's a
crime that it's not a full track. It is a crime.
It is.
I'm calling the police as we speak.
It is addictive. It is a complete earworm. You got tracks like Cheeseburger Family that have a video that actually matches with them pretty well. That are just really joke for Cheeseburger Family. It's just so that there's
so many like jokey tracks on here, but he makes them work in a way that I think that like I talked about this last time. In a way that I think like Kieran J. Callanan or Ariel Pink kind of fail at sometimes, and making their personas always work. But like this guy is so wholesome and so talented as well, and puts in so much work into his music that I just want the best for him.
Yeah, I think we can talk about him all day and we're gonna kind of make the same points, but this guy, not only is his persona on point, his hook game's on fucking point. There would be so many songs by the end, if you listen to all his music, there would be so many hooks that are getting stuck in your head and that you can't get rid of. Sonoma tracks, Oklahoma, Dead Weight, Getting My Mom, Buttercup,
My Mom
on. Just so many videos that he makes that are so aesthetically pleasing because he uses his old VHS style by making animations. I think he actually puts them on a VHS tape to get the aesthetic, and then he rips them out somehow. I think what he's doing is really intricate into him, and he's taking something that's not like that unique, but he makes it his own in some way. Somehow he finds a way to match all the pieces together to make him like such a unique individual. I think I mentioned this in the review. There's an interview of him being interviewed by some Pittsburgh news organization, and he's talking about his album Pop Food. It's like, yeah, this album was inspired by a bunch of stunts I do kickflips and stuff. I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Just like this goofy balls to the wall insane persona that actually has like depth to back it up with catchy hooks, great lo-fi production.
Oh, for sure.
And
this is stuff that like you listen to this for like aspiring musicians. You listen to this and you say like, I can make this.
Yeah.
And I think that's like really important for people to look up to people like that, because then you have like reasonable goals.
Yeah.
If you say like, I want to play guitar just like Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin, like that's pretty difficult. That guy shreds.
Yeah. So if you want to listen to this, we actually, if you're watching on YouTube, we're putting a link down in the description to his album Buttercup, which starts off with two of his hardest hitting tracks, his album Pop Food, which has
Pop Food is great.
Starts with two of his hardest hitting tracks, Buttercup and Oklahoma. Some other tracks I recommend on there. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's stuck in my head. But there's so many great tracks on there. I would definitely recommend checking out.
Just listen to the whole thing.
Just listen to the whole thing. It's a one unique experience. It's so catchy. It's so fun. So lighthearted.
He's just I think Jack Sauber is just a huge reminder that to make comedy and music is difficult, but it doesn't mean you don't have to be edgy to be funny.
Yeah.
You don't have to be childish to be funny either, and you don't have to you don't have to like sacrifice the quality of your music in order to make jokes.
Yeah. And
be a funny personality, because he has it all here.
Yeah. And I think that actually wraps it up for this episode of the Anthony Todd Show. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. This has actually been a really fun episode. We talked about a bunch. And I'm really excited for the future format of the show, because we switched it up last week. We used to do individual album reviews, but we actually saved that for our YouTube channel. So if you want to actually hear our reviews on projects such as Beach House 7 and Arctic Monkeys, Let's Go to the Diner and Get Some Food. Those will be on our YouTube channel. But until next time, guys, make sure you like our Facebook page, give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to us on YouTube, and if you like our theme song, it's produced by our big friend. I don't know who his big friend is, but I think he's a weirdo. Our intro song's called Galaxia, and our outro song's called Rock Sock Lamp. Links to the songs in the description if you're watching on YouTube. And this has been episode 39 of the Anthony Todd Show, an episode we would like to call
Father John Misty, more like Father John Pissy, because someone woke him up from his nap.
Till next time, guys. See ya, boys.
See you guys.